Hey everybody, Oli here for the weekly news recap of the 5th, the 11th of February 2024. So, this week, Steam was running a Steam Next Fest, which if you're not familiar with, it is when Steam shows off or makes a showcase for a bunch of indie games that are coming out either at some stage this year or possibly all into next year. We've been playing a few of them on the channel. There's a couple of VODs up there now. And if you wait a little bit, there'll be some more over on YouTube as well. And if you wait a little bit even more, we'll be playing some more of it later on today. Anyway, felt like I wanted to highlight some of the standout ones for me. So this first one is Mullet Mad Jack. This is just fucking dripping with style and just it's so fun to play. So it is kind of a roguelike tower climb kind of thing. You play presumably Mullet Mad Jack himself. You have 15 seconds to live. Every time you kill an enemy, you get a couple of seconds on top of your time limit. Depending on the difficulty level, you might get more, you might get less, and so on. And then it's very high speed, high pace. Just kill everything as fast as you can. As you even go outside of the building, which I didn't realize was a thing, but now I can see that in the trailer, so that's good. It's so fun. It's just really, really fast, and then it's using like the really old 90s, even 80s anime style and stuff like that. Anyway, give that one a look. We have Pepper Grinder. So the Pepper Grinder demo was kind of short. It's only about 3 levels, but it kind of gave you the gist of what the game was. And in general, it is this sort of very fluid movement with your grinder, your big drill thing. You kind of just move in and out of the dirt and in and out of the sand, kind of like a dolphin, just sort of undulating, hitting enemies along the way, hitting switches along the way, and it's sort of how smooth of a traversal through the level can you get. It's that kind of thing. It's very satisfying when it goes right, and a little frustrating when it goes wrong. But I quite like this. Here, Cryptmaster. Cryptmaster is a kind of a dungeon crawler type thing. I didn't want it to loop. It's a dungeon crawler thing. 4 party members. It's all done in monochrome, and you have this Cryptmaster sort of narrating and talking to you for the whole time. But the kind of gimmick with the game is that everything is done by typing. Attacks that you need to do, you type out the name of the attack. Do it. So it's like one of your guys has hit as an attack, you type out hit, jab, trap, guard, heal, all that kind of stuff. You'll also like open up chests and things like that, and there'll be like a game of, what am I? The Cryptmaster will be like, give me something to do with this thing. And you'll tell him, look at the item, and he'll describe what it looks like, feel the item, describe what it feels like, lick the item, he'll describe what it tastes like, and so on. You'll be asked questions, you have to type in the answers. Sometimes it doesn't get colloquialisms and stuff like that. When I say like yeah, when I say like sure, I don't think it understands that I mean yes. That kind of thing. But some other funny things you can do. It's like, you need to desecrate this temple. We're a bad guy. You need to desecrate this temple. What do you do to desecrate the temple? And I jokingly just typed in shit. I'm just gonna shit in the temple. And he's like, yep, that'll do it. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is a day one for me now. Anyway, that's Cryptmaster. Cabernet we played yesterday. It's a fairly lengthy demo. It's more than an hour. Cabernet is a choose your own adventure style thing where you are a newly born vampire, and you're trying to make your way in this new world, trying to keep yourself from do you try to hold on to your humanity, or do you fully embrace this whole immortality kind of thing and kill all the humans and what have you. It's set in and around 1890s or so. Sort of like traumatic experiences and how much of that affects your humanity and how much of it are you able to still hold on to and that kind of thing. I quite liked it. I don't know why it moved on. I thought I looped it, but I didn't. Let's go back. Look back. On. And last one, or second last one, really. Well, we'll get to the last one in a second. Anyway, last of the ones that we managed to get to play. Now, the demo didn't go quite well because I've forgot how to actually progress in it. But Hollow Body is a Kickstarter game that I have backed. Disclosure, and I've also been helping playtest. Not a huge amount exactly. I only have so much time for it, but every now and then I get to. So I've played the demo already before it had launched on Next Fest. Hollow Body is a kind of homage throwback to the old survival horrors, namely Silent Hill for the most part. The demo takes place in a like really claustrophobic apartment complex. Where if you've played any of the old Silent Hills, you'll be like, "Yep, that's Silent Hill, all right." Anyway, it's really moody, really atmospheric, and there's some really trippy horror stuff going on there as well. And there's some horrible things that are trying to kill you, and you hope they don't do that to you. Really looking forward to more from this. No release date for it yet. This year, at some point, maybe, hopefully sooner rather than later. And then the last one I did want to point out, but we didn't actually stream it. And we didn't stream it because the Steam Deck kind of struggled with it. But I played it off stream and didn't subject any of you to the shenanigans of the Steam Deck. Anyway, this is Indica. This is a kind of story-rich kind of narrative thing where you play Indica, a nun who is, I think, defrocked near the beginning of the game. And she is traveling from the monastery she's been kind of kicked out of, and she's traveling just around the country. I'm not sure what the exact journey she's going on. It wasn't really revealed in the demo. But she is possessed, maybe, and/or slash psychosis, and/or slash she's just crazy. Who knows? But she thinks she's possessed by the devil, and the devil does speak to her, and he's not very nice about it. But whoever does the voice acting for the devil is very good. He's got like a very kind of friendly voice and sort of jovial kind of thing, but the things he says are not particularly nice to you. Anyway, it's a kind of puzzle-rich thing. I really liked it, but again, the Steam Deck is not able to keep up with it, so hopefully it turns out better, the main game. Hopefully it'll come to consoles or something I can play it on at least. Right. Anyway, that was my very brief review of Steam Next Fest. We're going to play some more of those games. And that's only like the 5 not off the top of my head, but they were probably the best ones. But there were also some very good ones there that just, they weren't as good as those ones. Anyway, moving on. Outside of the Steam Next Fest, Paralives, that we haven't heard from a while. So this is another game going after The Sims for being complacent and having no competition whatsoever. So now we have Paralives and Life by You. Paralives, this one, is going to be in early access later this year. We haven't seen much about it in a while. This trailer is kind of showing off how the live mode of the game works, which is when your character, not your sim, your Paralife, I guess is what they're going with, when they go about their day. Their day-to-day stuff. So not the build bit where you like build your apartment or build your house or what have you. This is the bit where they go and do their jobs and they get better at their hobbies and stuff like that. It looks really nice. It looks really interesting. I'm wondering how in-game or how in-world these kind of things are. You can see like you actually go up to a hiring poster to sort of take the job. Also, don't interview, you just get the job, which is whatever. Anyway, we'll shortcut that. That's fine. Nobody wants to actually do the interview bit. Yeah, you get your job. It's this character here doesn't have the qualifications for anything higher than that, so they go in the entry level. You do things to upgrade your job and so on. It's very Sims, but it's not The Sims. It's different. It's actual competition. And the people behind Paralives have said that there won't be any, paid DLC. Any DLC there is will be free as long as you bought the game in the first place, which is obviously very different to The Sims, which is at this point, if you want to play all of Sims 4, it's like $1,000. It's disgusting. Anyway, that trailer goes on trailer's probably not the right word. It's like a gameplay brief. It's about 8 minutes, 7.5 minutes. It's pretty good. If you're interested in it, give it a look. Then we have Lost Helden. So Lost Helden is from a bunch of industry vets from the JRPG scene. The name Helden is a really dumb portmanteau of heaven and hell. Why they didn't go with Helven, I don't know. Helden is the one they wanted to go with. Anyway, get into like the gameplay wise sort of thing. It's kind of a bit Shadow Hearts. Is what it says to me. It's like almost turn based, but then there's a little bit of like real time combat going on as well. Really nice art style. It's got this sort of in between 3D and paint, not watercolor, gouache maybe. It's kind of this in betweeniness to it that is quite appealing. I quite like the look of it. We are only seeing this one character. I believe it is a party-based game. We're only seeing this one character. We have people from Tactics Ogre. We have people from Gravity Rush. Believe there is somebody from Shadow Hearts as well working on it. I think there's a party there as well. Anyway, looking good. There's no release date or anything. This is just announcing that it's a thing, and hey, keep an eye out for it. Maybe. I don't believe there is a release date. Maybe here. No. Wish list. 2025 next year. Gonna be a while. Gonna be waiting on that one a while. Also, Botany Manor, we played as part of Steam Next Fest last year. Botany Manor is a puzzle game, but it's based around kind of growing plants. The plants are somewhat fictitious, you know, it's like one of them requires a flash of light to actually grow and that kind of thing, so it's not like real plants. But it does sort of take the idea of how certain plants require certain environments to grow, and if they don't get it, they don't grow. Grows, fuckers, they just don't grow at all. Anyway, it's like things like they need more light, some of them need less light, some of them need particular nutrients in the soil, some of them need warm environments and so on. This one, it's a little bit different, but a lot of it is still the same kind of general idea. It's like you need a particular environment to get these things to grow, and the puzzle element is basically make that environment happen. The brief amount that I played in the demo was kind of interesting, kind of fun, and the environments were quite nice. Again, the Steam Deck was like, lol, what are you trying to do? How dare you? How dare you force me to do something like this? But yeah, I'm kind of hoping it hit. I'm pretty sure it's going to be on console as well. And if it's not, I'm going to have to wait, I guess, because the Steam Deck was like, yeah, this is too pretty for me. I can't play this. I don't know, it's kind of weird with the Steam Deck. It's like some games seem kind of lo-fi, and you'd be like, why aren't you able to play this? Like, nope, I'm gonna chug, sorry. And then some of them are like crazy high fidelity. It's like, how are you playing this? He's like, I don't know. Anyway, 3 games, Epic Game Store this week. Doki Doki Literature Club Plus. It's the one that has all the content in it. If you haven't played it, I'm not going to say anything about it. Just play it. It's good. Good game. It's not what it looks like. Put it that way. And then the other game, because there's 2 games, is Lost Castle. Is a game I have not heard of. Lost Castle is an action RPG beat 'em up with roguelike elements and randomized dungeons for up to 4 players online and local. Oh, thank you. Moving on, monthly games. Xbox Game Pass. I was meant to talk about this last week, but they hadn't actually released the games yet, so we're going to talk about it this week instead. So we have a little to the left, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, Plate Up, Resident Evil 3, Return to Grace, and Train Sim World 4 are all coming to cloud, console, and PC. And Madden 24 is not coming to cloud, so it'll only be console and PC. There's some really good games in there, and then Train Sim World 4 and Madden. It's a bit mean. Anyway, Train Sim World is exactly what you think it is. It's a train sim game. You know if you want it already. Madden is also a game you already know. It's American football and will appeal to only one country on the entire planet, but okay. Resident Evil 3 was kind of not critically well received. It was felt that it was quite short and it cut out a lot of the original Resident Evil 3. We haven't got to this game yet in my Resident Evil playthrough series. We have played the original Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. We haven't played this new one, so I don't know if I agree. Kind of tend to think that I will, because the things that they said they've omitted is like, those are kind of important parts of the game. That's not great. But it is done in the same Resi 2 remake, Resi 4 remake engine. It's still going to be a fun game, but it's not going to be maybe as good as Resident Evil 2 remake. Or the Resident Evil 4 remake, as the case may be. Bloodstained Ritual of the Night is Castlevania in all but name. This is from Koji Igarashi. He's not exactly the creator of Castlevania, but he's probably the creator of the Castlevanias you like. So Castlevania 3 and Symphony of the Night. I think Circle of something. Circle of something is him as well. Anyway, it's not called Circle of something. It's called Circle of whatever. I can't remember what it is. Bloodstained Ritual of the Night was a Kickstarter title. Did really, really well. I backed it. The game itself turned out excellent. Excellent game, and it has been getting updates ever since. It is a very rich, very dense game at this point. A little to the left is a kind of cozy puzzle game. They're all sort of household items that are sort of arranged in a haphazard way, and it's just make it look nice. There isn't even necessarily one solution to all of the puzzles. A lot of it is just make it look presentable for the most part. And then randomly the household cat will show up and fuck everything up. But other than that, it's pretty cozy. Plate Up is a bit overcooked. But I think you actually take on a bit of restaurant management as well at the same time. Classic cooking action with permanent roguelike progression. Cook and serve your dishes, design and decorate your restaurants. Yeah, so there's like restaurant decoration, you fill it out. It's not like Overcooked where you go to different levels and the restaurants are very different and have little gimmicks to them. Plate Up is more of you have a restaurant and you start basic and you build it up and keep going until you fail, and then you get some points and you put it into those things for your next run and so on. Return to Grace is a game I've been wanting to play for a while. I haven't got around to it yet. It's a pretty heavy narrative-focused game, not unlike the Stasis games, but nowhere near as grim. A daring space archaeologist has just unearthed the ancient resting place of a long-lost AI god known as Grace. Adventure with various fractured AI personalities as you uncover the great mystery of why she was shut down. Yeah, I've been looking forward to play that for a while. I just needed to come up in rotation, and it's not coming up in rotation. It's really annoying. Anyway, those are some of the games you can play soon, but what if you wanted to play something right now? Well, you could play Helldivers 2. It's doing pretty well on Steam, even with all of the launch issues. It's a little bit unstable on PC right now, and not so much on PS5, but it is still unstable there as well. So Helldivers 2 is basically Starship Troopers, but they didn't get the license for it. So it's very, sarcastic. Not sarcastic, that's not the word. What do I want? Parody, I guess, of sort of like, the way Starship Troopers didn't really take itself particularly seriously, but everything was done po-faced. Anyway, it's a fun 4-player PvE kind of thing. I believe it is playable solo. I haven't looked into it myself. I'm mostly pointing it out just because I am kind of interested to play it, but I don't want to pay for it because I don't know if I'll actually stick with it, is mostly my issue. If I had a demo, I would give it a shot. Or if I had 3 other people to play it with, I guess. But that is unlikely. A man in his late 30s getting 3 other people in their late 30s to play a video game on the regular. That's not happening. Anyway, that's Helldivers. Then we have the Inquisitor, or I the Inquisitor, or whatever you want to call it. So this is going to be incredibly jank and very unstable and probably will crash constantly. That's the feeling I'm getting from looking at it, but the premise of the game is too funny for me to not give it a shot. So the idea is Jesus didn't die on the cross. He instead went, fuck this shit, I'm going to take over instead. You're all sinners, and I'm going to make sure you all, stick to the path and whatever. So instead of being crucified, he comes down off the cross and just subjugates the planet, and now he's God Emperor of Earth. And you're one of his inquisitors. And that's a very dumb premise, and I really want to see how it, turns out. So we'll see how that goes. We will play this at some point, I just don't know when. And last, Legendary Tales is a VR title that was shown off at Sony State of Play last week. So even from the State of Play, there's already a game that's been released, other than the Silent Hill one, I suppose. Yeah, we saw this at the State of Play. It's a first-person VR title, medieval hack and slash thing. Goes in for a little bit of comedy. There's a lot of like physics-based things, interactions, that kind of thing. Again, as I said at the time, it is hard to tell if this game plays out well, or how janky it is, how good the one-to-one mapping is for your actions versus how they're interpreted by the video game. I don't know. You'll only know by playing it, I suppose. Anyway, it is out if you're interested in that kind of thing. I am, but I have so many other VR games that I need to play. Anyway, there's a lot going on in that trailer. Moving on, though, unfortunately, because it is now time to talk about the worst part of video games, video game industry. So, there's been rumors and speculations and great upheavals in the land of video games because maybe Xbox games might be coming to PlayStation. So to assuage all the fears of all the weird Xbox fanboys who were like selling their Xboxes and breaking them, whatever, and swearing off the whole thing, and like, okay, chief, it's a plastic box, get over yourself. But anyway, Phil Spencer decided to, calm everyone's fears by saying, I'll talk about it next week. More or less, which did nothing to calm anybody's fears, because why would you have anything to put off that much to next week unless it was a pretty big deal? Like, if he was just going to say, no, the rumors are not true, or we have no intention of bringing other games other than Call of Duty, because they're now kind of legally required to do that, because of the whole acquisition of Activision, kind of a lot of trade commissions around the country have around the world have said, yeah, we can have the merger go through, but Call of Duty has to go to PlayStation. Anyway, console maker does plan on addressing the elephant in the room, but not until next week. Some point. So the rumor is that a bunch of Bethesda games, in particular Starfield, Indiana Jones, will be hitting PS5 soon enough, instead of keeping them exclusive, whether it's day and date, whether it's a year later. Again, don't know. This is all speculation. Xbox, Microsoft, Phil Spencer, whoever haven't come out to say anything about it. The only thing he said is, we're listening, we hear you, we've been planning a business update event for next week where we look forward to sharing more details with you about our vision for the future of Xbox. Stay tuned. Something is happening. What exactly, we don't know. But it's clear that it's not a business as usual thing. They wouldn't need to have this event otherwise. Otherwise, he would have just said, no, it's business. Anyway, we'll know next week, whatever that business event is. It hasn't been announced yet. It's possible it may be coinciding with a Nintendo Direct. Might be saying, hey, Hi-Fi Rush is on Nintendo Switch. And then it's also on Sony. Don't talk about that part. That's my theory. I guess we'll see how it works out. But yeah, we don't know. Speaking of Microsoft layoffs affect 86 staff at Spyro Crash Bandicoot Studio, which is Toys for Bob. So Toys for Bob has been hit with 86 firings. Just call them what they are. They're firings. This is after the acquisition by Microsoft of Activision Blizzard. So Toys for Bob are a subsidiary of Activision. And they've lost a lot of employees. And my highlights for this have disappeared, but I believe they have also changed offices. Toys for Bob's physical office will also be closing down, according to state filings. I'm not sure if they're changing offices or if they're just going remote. California government is in its database. Number of layoffs. No, it doesn't say. I think they're going fully remote, but also 86 is a lot of people to lose from a not particularly large studio. 30 to 40%, which was estimated to be around 35 people, but instead it has been more than that. So that's, if 35 people was 30 to 40%, then 86 staff is there's not a lot of people left there. People thinking that, hey, now that Microsoft has taken over, we're gonna get more Crash Bandicoot and more Spyro. No, you're not. You're not. And even if you were, the people who were working on the latest ones aren't there anymore. Anyway, continuing with these layoffs that probably shouldn't have happened, FTC claims Microsoft contradicted Activision acquisition following mass layoffs. So, at the time, Microsoft claimed that acquiring Activision would just be a limited integration studio, which basically meant that Activision would continue to operate by itself and would be integrated with Microsoft. That's what the limited integration bit means. FTC has now said that it's contradicted its intentions during its acquisition of Activision when it laid off close to 2,000 employees from its games division in January. The decision to lay off staff was made to eliminate areas of overlap. There would be no areas of overlap if it was a limited integration. This would suggest it was not a limited integration, is what the FTC is saying. This is inconsistent with Microsoft's suggestion to this court that the two companies will operate independently post-merger. FTC is requiring a need for injunctive relief pending completion of the administrative proceedings, so they want to basically stop anything else happening to Activision until they've ironed out what the exact details are going on with the merger. Microsoft will come back to say, lol, merger's over, get fucked, more or less. Microsoft will come back to say that Activision was already planning to make these mass layoffs, regardless of whether the acquisition was completed. You knew that already. Which means you could have told the people who were laid off before they were laid off, but you didn't do that, except for the ones in the union that you were required to do. Everyone else, you just told them on the day. But you knew ahead of time that it was going to happen. Way ahead of time by the looks of things, because this merger took ages. People could have had jobs lined up, or not taken those jobs if they knew they were going to get fired 2 months later. Yada yada, consistent with broader trends. The point is, you knew it was going to happen, and you didn't tell anybody who needed to know. Now, this isn't on Microsoft necessarily, it's on Activision for not telling the people. But also, Microsoft acquired us. They were quite confident they were going to acquire it and put nothing in place for this. Not a good look. Not a great look. Speaking of non-union protection, IGN staff have announced a new union amid hectic media landscape. So this is a pretty big deal, because IGN is one of, if not the biggest video game media things out there. Whatever your feelings on IGN in particular, they're very influential on the whole video game journalism side of things. IGN has announced they are unionizing with the News Guild of the Communication Workers Alliance, which is what vast majority of the video games people have unionized under. The website has since grown into the biggest video game outlet in the world. It's hard to argue with that. The staff who are responsible for that success are now forming a union. We're talking about over 80 writers, editors, and content creators. So remember, IGN doesn't just have its, articles and its editorials. It also has its video side of stuff. It also has people who make guides and community outreach and that kind of thing. So there's a lot going on there. IGN's new union expects Ziff Davis, who is the owner, to voluntarily recognize the guild because over 87% of eligible members have signed union cards. 87% of 80 people is not huge. Anyway, the IGN Creators Guild will be separate from the pre-existing Ziff Davis Creators Guild, which is also part of the News Guild, CWA. Now, kind of interesting here is why didn't they join that one? Other than the fact that it has the owner's name in it. Probably the reason why they didn't. And there's some illuminating quote here for why they didn't, but we'll go into it later. Speaking on behalf of the new union, of our many goals, we first and foremost want to see IGN grow and thrive as digital media continues to become more and more tumultuous. If you've been paying attention, a lot of just internet journalism in general has been disappearing because they're being bought out by private equity people who have no idea how to run a news business, and then obviously it fails and their job. We have been an institution for over 25 years, and the creators of IGN want to see it continue for 25 more and beyond, but to do so we need support. We need fair and competitive pay for all, including those who are asked to live and work in some of the most expensive cities in the United States. IGN is based in San Francisco. It's crazy expensive. Affordable health insurance, better diversity, equity, and inclusion across the board. So the issue that they're mostly coming up against is that protection from layoffs is what they want, because fucking everybody's losing their job in that industry right now. A lot of industries in general. Guarantees of reasonable compensation if they can't avoid the cuts. Not really happening. The group also wants protections against generative AI and other kind of similar tech, which is, don't just jump onto the next big thing and fucking ruin people's lives. Nobody wants an article written by a machine. Nobody. The IGN Creators Guild has also called for better and clearer career growth paths, which a lot of companies could use. Support for overworked employees who are often working long hours covering things like what used to be E3 but would have been Summer Games Fest now, Comic-Con, all that kind of stuff. How can you help if you want to? They've shared an online petition to sort of get Ziff Davis to voluntarily agree. Voluntary agreement would be a lot better because otherwise they'll have to force the issue through court and through like the labor board and stuff like that. And it'll take ages. I assume that's how it's going to go anyway. But you know, they could be the bigger man and just do it themselves. But kind of interesting here. So, streaming editor at IGN, Amelia Emberwing. Cool name if it's a real name. Anyway. Working with company-sponsored initiatives has only highlighted just how far we have to go. So the company-sponsored initiative in this case, I think, is referring to the Ziff Davis Creators Guild. It's like a company-sponsored union, which feels like that's a big mistake right there. Anyway, in the past, IGN has faced criticism online, mostly due to its editorial discretion. Showcasing mostly white men on screen, creating sponsored content with the US military and oil companies. This new union wants to address this ethical editorial concerns. They're not happy, basically, that the parent company is forcing them down a particular marketing route and having to partner up with ethically questionable marketing people, like the US military. Anyway, hopefully that will work out for them. Speaking of unions, though, French union flags concerns for welfare of Don't Nod staff. So Don't Nod are the people behind Life is Strange, behind Vampire, if you played on the channel, behind Banishers Ghosts of New Eden, that's coming out soon, and also you'll be playing on the channel. The picture here is from Jusant, which, again, I've been hoping to play at some point. Anyway, the French union, STJV, it's in French, I don't know what it stands for, has said it is concerned about the welfare of employees at Don't Nod due to the erratic organization there and the studio taking on more projects than it can handle, putting out like 4 games, 2 years or something ridiculous. It's alleged that the studio changes its deadlines frequently, gives contradictory information to teams, moves staff from team to team with no clear goal. Don't Nod has 8 titles in the pipeline right now. I know of 3. Fuck are the other 5? They've got... Actually, I only know of 2. Banishers is done. I'm gonna add it because it's technically not out yet, but it's done, and I guess they're gonna have post-game support. Then there's the new thing from the Life is Strange team. Can't remember what it's called. It looks interesting, but I don't remember what it's called. It looked like Oxenfree. And then I don't know. What are their other 6 games that they have in a pipeline? Apparently. That's a lot. Anyway, the 3rd game that I was thinking of was Jusant, but obviously that's out. And now it's also been pointed out to this French union that the studio has disbanded the Jusant production team after the game failed to meet commercial expectations. It's not great. Many have ended up without any work to do for more than 2 months, which would suggest poor organization practices. You could have just left them on the game and just let them do post-game support. Anyway, breakup of this team was a sudden decision that Don't Nod failed to justify to the in-house Social and Economic Committee, SE, Company Social and Economic thing. Team on the upcoming Banishers was allegedly only informed that the game's launch was being pushed from November to February, 30 minutes before the public did. That's not great. Not ideal. They've probably been crunching like crazy to get it ready for November, and upper management knew and had made this decision way in advance. Had to be. No way the upper management also made the decision 31 minutes before a public announcement. Definitely not. Also, somebody had to make the trailer to say that as well, so keeping your team in the dark like that is pretty gross, and they must have had to crunch like crazy because they thought it was coming out in November. Anyway, it's also claimed every team is understaffed. Surprising. While contractors have been called in to deal with production emergencies, it is always on precarious contracts. Again, you're not a full-time employee, so get fucked. SCJV claimed that Don't Nod management has refused any direct communication between the union and staff, which I think is illegal, and is relying on a notice board at the studio to inform 300 employees about any worker matters, despite 75% of employees being fully remote. It means they have absolutely no idea there even is a notice board there, never mind being able to view it. Cool. The CSE, the internal team, have been having difficulty raising these issues due to lack of communication between workers and management. Yeah, because they do everything by notice board, apparently. Employees suffering so badly they need to take sick leave or quit the studio. That's not great, having to use your time off PTO because you're so fucking stressed. Dontnod's management is burying its head in the sand, according to SDJV. Dontnod's upper management team did get back to just do a bunch of corporate shit. Didn't bother talking about it. They're like, oh, we take this seriously. Clearly you don't. Anyway, speaking of poor management, Square Enix is overhauling its development process to improve game quality. So, this was kind of threatened, like, last year, near the end of last year, that they were thinking about bringing more development in-house. We are reviewing from scratch what the organizational structure is and what the best way is to implement the contents of the pipeline. In the hell, like that was translated, but like translated again. You did not do a good job. So basically, what they're looking at to do is less outsourcing, bring more development in-house, but then also have more checking on what people are actually doing in development. So you may not know, but Square Enix's management are actually pretty hands-off development. They kind of give the game project to a creative director and kind of just let them do their thing. And they don't really check in on them until very close to the end of the game. And by then, it can't really change anything, really, without having a massive delay. Which is why sometimes you see Square Enix games get huge delays. This is the real reason why, because they just don't check on it. And even when it doesn't necessarily need a delay, but upper management are like, hey, we want you to chase this trend instead. AA Live Services turning Babylon's Fall into a live service game. Anyway, they want to reduce the amount of development it outsources to external studios, and this will include a new checking mechanism, which is basically, we're going to do our job for a change. Anyway. This is coming into light because Square Enix is saying that a lot of its projects did not meet the high end of the company's expectations. Now, I've talked a lot before about Square Enix's and their ridiculous expectations. They think every game they make should be bought by every single person who plays video. And that is their expectation. Because that's the only explanation I have for how none of their games seem to ever meet my expectations. No matter how well they do, no matter how well received they are, no matter how well they sell, even. It's like the Tomb Raider reboot didn't meet expectations. The Hitman new trilogy didn't meet expectations, despite being the best-selling entry. I think the Tomb Raider reboot was also the best-selling entry. What are your expectations, guys? Like, come on. Anyway, will this actually result in better quality games? No, honestly, but I think it will result in more homogenous games because now upper management will be getting more involved with development at an earlier process. Their sensibilities and their addiction to chasing market trends. Remember that Square Enix were all in on NFTs when they were a fad, and they're all in on generative AI now that it's a fad, and so on. So this isn't necessarily a good thing. Anything, I'd argue, bad thing. Anyway, moving on. Speaking of Japanese companies, I don't have a great segue for this. Kadokawa Corporation acquires Acquire. That's not going to be difficult to say. Kadokawa are the parent company of FromSoft and Spike Chunsoft. So FromSoft, you probably already know, they're the Dark Souls people. Spike Chunsoft, you may not be familiar with. They are Danganronpa and more recently Master Detective Archives Raincode, which we're playing on the channel right now, and I'm enjoying, but which everybody else is hating, I think. Anyway, they want to strengthen the ability to create IP and games as part of our business strategy. Bullshit, who cares? You acquired a company for no reason. Who are Acquire? Acquire are the people most notably behind Octopath Traveler. It's probably their best received series up till now. But they have in the past also worked on Tenchu, which is technically owned by FromSoft, and Way of the Samurai, which is technically owned by Spike Chunsoft. So they have already sort of worked with both companies. The most recent stuff, though, they've been doing with Square Enix. They're also responsible for a title called Akiba's Trip, which I've never heard of. Kind of interestingly, though, Octopath Traveler is by far their best developed game and probably their best received, but I think that was because it had a lot of hand-holding from Square Enix devs. So whether they think they're going to be getting that high caliber from acquiring Acquire, I don't think so. Guess we'll see how it turns out, but that's... And again, I don't think Acquire worked on Octopath Traveler 2. I think it was a different dev. Speaking of So yeah, there's no segue for this one. Okay, Take-Two and 2K say virtual currency is fiction. In currency lawsuit continues. So this was a class action lawsuit that was brought up last year, basically to say that when you shut down 2K22 or 2K23, something like that, all of the virtual coins, the 2K bucks, were shut down with it. So any money you put into it, basically is gone, thrown away. And it is alleged that that is tantamount to theft. You have stolen money. We've paid you money for a service or goods that you did not provide, effectively. That is the crux of the lawsuit, and 2K side of things is like, no. Basically. Virtual currencies within games, is according to 2K and Take-Two, are fictions created by game publishers. So they admit it. They admit it's worthless, and yet they still charge you money for it. Anyway, during a lawsuit which alleges that money is effectively stolen from players when games are shut down. This is a lawsuit originally filed in November in California by a minor and his mother. I think it was then turned into a class action thing. But anyway, alleges that Take-Two is guilty of civil theft and unfair business practices for closing down servers for various NBA, WWE, PGA stuff, causing players to lose access to any remaining in-game funds they have already paid for. Take-Two lawyer decided to say instead that virtual currency is not plaintiff's property because of some buried thing in the EULA base. In-game VC, virtual currency, are fictions created by game publishers subject to the publisher's terms of service and user agreements. So the thing you bought, you don't actually own. Again. But even worse now. It's an ephemeral thing. So basically there's a thing in the EULA that says limited rights and license. That's you're buying a license to use virtual currency rather than actually buying the virtual currency itself, which is again is a stupid straw man thing that they put up to basically avoid any kind of litigation whatsoever. Anyway, this alleges that the game publisher has, the player has a limited right and license to virtual currency, and that Take-Two can choose to suspend or eliminate it as it sees fit. Of course, this doesn't point out that the EULA is a thing that nobody reads. And it is taken into consideration in courts that basically nobody reads these things and they're worthless. See how that turns out. Anyway, the original lawsuit claims that keeping virtual currency is unfair, illegal, and greedy, and calls for Take-Two to offer refunds on any unspent funds if servers are shut down. So they're not exactly requiring that the game stay up. They're like, no, compensate me for money that I've put in that I can't use now. It's interesting that they don't come after them for shutting the game down in general, and these aren't free-to-play games. They're like $60 games that are now unplayable. Are they unplayable? I suppose you can still play them on offline. Anyway, a court will decide in March what the deal is here. They're probably going to come down on the side of Take-Two, to be honest, because otherwise it would throw up a pretty big problem with that kind of purchasing of credits, effectively, because there's like online gambling sites kind of thing. If you wanted to cash out your Poker Stars bucks or whatever the fuck it's called, I think there's also going to be an issue there. Anyway, we'll see. March, be a while. Speaking of disappointment, I guess, I don't know. Ubisoft was disappointed by Assassin's Creed Nexus VR sales will not increase VR investment. Well, if you had brought it to any other platform other than just Meta Quest, maybe you might have done better sales. I don't know. This is according to Jimo, the CEO. It did okay. It continues to sell. Did okay. He has literally said it did okay. Yeah, and it continues to sell, but we thought it would sell more, so we are not increasing our investment of VR. He literally said it did okay. Why wouldn't you? Anyway, so we are not increasing our investment on VR at the moment because it needs to take off. Well, one way to ensure it definitely takes off is to not increase any investment. Idiot. Anyway, Assassin's Creed Nexus VR was released on MetaQuest at the end of November. It hasn't even had a lot of time to sell, and also it's exclusive to the MetaQuest. You can't play it on any PC VR title or PC VR platform. You can't play it on Sony's PlayStation VR platform either. Of course it didn't sell well. You restricted it to a very not particularly powerful VR platform. What were you expecting? Apparently they were expecting every person who owns the MetaQuest to buy it. Speaking of Ubisoft and their ridiculous expectations, I actually did have a segue for that one. Skull and Bones isn't a free to play game because it's quadruple A. Fuck off, Ubisoft. Eve in particular. Skull and Bones will be priced at $70. Why was so? This is from an earnings call, and I was basically asking why is it not free to play? If it was free to play, we get more people to play it, and then possibly buy the little microtransaction shit. You'll see that Skull and Bones is a fully fledged game. It's a very big game, and we feel that people will really see how vast and complete that game is. It's a really full, triple, quadruple A game that will deliver in the long run. Won't? No, it won't. It is Sea of Thieves, but less fun. I don't see that as delivering for them for $70. Jesus Christ. The publisher expects Skull and Bones to be one of the reasons for record annual net bookings during the next financial quarter. Are you being serious right now? Ubisoft and their expectations. Take those expectations and put them into VR instead, please. Anyway, yeah. Having seen people's responses to the open beta, this game's not going to do great. And also, Ubisoft are legally required to release Skull and Bones. Otherwise, they would have cancelled it years ago. This game has been sitting in development hell for so long now. So they have a deal with the Singaporean government, where Skull and Bones is being developed. For like tax reasons and whatever, they're getting a tax rebate from the Singaporean government, but part of that is that they have to release the game. Otherwise, they have a huge, effectively, to pay to the government, and they don't want to do that, so they're going to release the game instead. A game that is made completely like without passion and only to avoid an even bigger fine is apparently going to be responsible for their record-setting revenue for next year. I don't think so. I don't think that's going to happen. And also, why didn't you give that money to independent Singaporean developers instead of horrible multinational corporation? Anyway, moving on. Some stuff happening in the community instead. Capcom is curious if y'all want more Dino Crisis. So Capcom has a survey currently going around as part of one of its anniversary type things. This is my plea to you guys to go and take the survey and put Dino Crisis and Onimusha in the list for franchises to revive. You get 3, so you can add the third one can be whatever you want, but put those 2 in, please. I want to play more Onimusha, and we need Dino Crisis so people will shut up about Dino Crisis. That's the only reason. Throw them a dinosaur bone. Hopefully they'll go away. These are the options for things that people want to see sequels from. Ace Attorney, I feel, is going to get one anyway because the trilogies have been doing so well. Lost Planet, yeah, is a possibility. Mega Man. I never got into Mega Man. Dragon's Dogma is already getting a sequel. I don't even know what this is. Koroware no Paruma. No idea. Whatever versus Capcom, that would be good. I would like to see more Marvel versus Capcom, but not ahead of the rest of these. Resident Evil is not in danger of not getting a sequel anytime soon. Fighter is the same. Sengoku Basara. It's a very Japanese-focused title. Is that the Bikini Samurai game? Is that something else? I don't know. Dino Crisis, yeah, just again, throw them a big T-Rex bone and maybe they'll shut up about it. Dead Rising, if they bring it in-house, because Dead Rising 4 was outsourced and it was not good. Devil May Cry, they don't give that a sequel after Devil May Cry 5 doing so well. I don't know what they're doing. Darkstalkers, like, yes, it should, but again, I feel like it would just get merged into the versus Capcom stuff instead. Okami doesn't need a sequel. It's the perfect game. Leave it alone. Use the art style to make something else, sure, but the game itself is flawless. Leave it alone. Onimusha, yes, more of that, please. Final Fight, also, yes, more of that, please. Breath of Fire, just sort of remaster the ones that are there. Ghosts and Goblins, unless you do something drastically different with it, I don't think it would play well now. Monster Hunter is getting a sequel. And 1942, I don't know what that is. A Capcom game based on around World War II? Yes? And these are the ones for... Yeah, these are the ones for, like, what would you like to see any of these get, like, a full remake, basically. Onimusha 1 to 3, yes, absolutely. Breath of Fire, I don't think they need a remake. Honestly, they just need a little remaster tweak to make them, HD 16:9 ratio kind of thing. Otherwise, just leave it alone. It's fine the way it is. Ace Attorney remakes, no, they're fine the way they are. Leave them alone. Final Fight, yes. They say Commando. Did they mean Bionic Commando? Bionic Commando got a remake and it's really good. Leave it alone. Right. Anyway, that's the news. Just to loop. Very quickly do a recap. Anyway, that's the news for. That's the news for the 5th to the 11th of February 2024. So some stuff coming out of Steam Next Fest, some really interesting games. I'm looking forward to see more of them. We have Xbox's Game Pass games coming out this month. Bloodstained Ritual of the Night's a pretty good get for them. Very good game. Some updates about Lost Helden was announced. This is from some industry veterans around the JRPG scene. Tactics Ogre and Shadow Hearts, I think, and then I forget what the middle one, Gravity Rush artists. So it looks pretty nice. But next year is the earliest we're going to hear about any more of it. Botany Manor has a release date that I forget what it was now. It's soon, anyway. I think it's March. What was the first game in the updates bit? Paralives, right. Paralives had a bigger video showcase to show off how the gameplay works. It's effectively a Sims competitor. New releases we're looking at here, Helldivers, as well as The Inquisitor, or I Inquisitor, depending on where in the world you're playing it. Third game. Yeah, my memory is so bad. What was the third game? Legendary Tales, the VR game. Yes, that's it. We'll see how that turns out. It's more of a case of how janky is it. I need to see somebody play it. I need to see somebody play it whose VR opinion I respect, I suppose. Anyway, industry bullshit thing. The industry continues to be shit. Microsoft lays off Toys for Bob people. We have that rumor about whether Xbox games are going to be coming to PlayStation and Nintendo. We don't know. Maybe. Sounds like something is happening around that. Mightn't be all games. It might just be a select few. Maybe it's just the Bethesda ones. Also because they're already used to doing multi-platform. Maybe they're getting a pushback from people at Blizzard and Bethesda going, we want to stay multi-platform. Activision as well. They want to stay multi-platform, maybe. I don't know. See how that turns out. Then we have the FTC saying that the layoffs that happened at Activision, close to 2,000 people last year, was in violation, or not in violation, but contradicts what Microsoft said they were going to do with the merger. See how that transpires. I don't think it'll go anywhere. The merger has happened at this point. Square Enix deciding that their upper management team might actually do their job for a change, and then probably make their games worse, but I guess we'll see how that turns out. Ubisoft being sticking their heads in, well, not sticking their heads in the sand exactly, but seeing that their VR games are fine and then choosing not to make them better, but just ignore them instead. Okay, all right, that's fine. And then focus on live service shit that is on its way out, honestly. Like, when was the last new live service game to really take off? You know, how many of them have just launched and then immediately shuttered almost? I can't think of a live service game recently, at least, that has really taken off. Can't think of one. It's still just the same handful of games. It's still like Destiny and MMOs, more or less, that you only ever hear about. Or the various PvP arena things, I guess. Apex Legends and stuff like that. Anyway, really call them I mean, they are live services, but would you really call them that? I suppose they are. Fortnite, what have you. It's still the same. It's still the same games from like 8 years, 10 years now at this point. Anyway, moving on. Go fill in that Capcom survey and put Onimusha and Dino Crisis down, and then pick a third one for yourselves as a treat. Anyway, Channel update. So what is happening on the channel? Here is our roadmap for the year. So some things that have changed. We finished Resident Evil HD this week, and Banishers is coming up soon. I have removed a game from the roadmap, so possibly, if you might remember, I doubt it, but you might remember. Prince of Persia: The Last Crown used to be in this square. I've removed it from there now because I'm going to play that myself off stream. I'm not going to do a full stream of it. I will put it in as part of a Fully Plays Games a Bit this week. But after that, I'm just going to play it myself because I need something to play off stream and I want to play that. So that's what I'm going to do. Otherwise, what happened this week? So as I said, we finished Resident Evil HD, which was a remake. No, sorry. It's a remaster of a remake of the original Resident. Yes. Resident Evil, or E cubed. Yeah, it's a good game. It does some really interesting things with the original game. It adds a couple of story elements that were not in the original, but were meant to be. They were cut for time, and they were able to add them back into this HD remaster. Good shit. It still looks really good. In some places, the textures are a little bit muddy. For the most part, it looks excellent. I would have preferred if they had kept the old script. Kind of changed a couple of the lines, and they're not as funny anymore. Hey, the original game is still there. You can still play it. Anyway, I am pausing Resident Evil and Final Fantasy series playthroughs right now. So the way I'm going to do it is we're going to play the Final Fantasy game, a Resident Evil game, something else. Final Fantasy, Resident Evil, something else. Final Fantasy, Resident Evil, something else. Until we get to the point where I have to start doing Final Fantasy 14, and I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe I will do this until we're done with Resident Evil, because there aren't that many Resident Evil games left, whereas there are a lot of Final Fantasy games left. Anyway, we'll get to that. Moving on. So this week, Banishers Goes to New Eden launches on Tuesday. We are going to start playing it on Wednesday as a full Let's Play. This is from the team behind Vampire, which I really liked. We played it not last year, the year before, I think, as a full Let's Play. I thought it was really good. So this is from the same team. I'm not a huge fan of the setting. This is like New World, US. Not a huge fan of that kind of historical period. But, I mean, I like Vampire, so we'll see how this one turns out. The plan is to do a full Let's Play, but I guess we'll see from the first part if I'm actually enjoying it. So look for that on Wednesday. I'm pushing it to Wednesday because I don't know if it'll actually be downloaded on time to play it on Tuesday. That's why we're doing it on Wednesday instead. And then, as I said, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, we're going to play on Friday as part of my Foley Plays Games a Bit series, which is where we play just newly released games a little bit, just 2-3 hours or so of it. Really cool Metroidvania game. I'm really interested to play more of it. I have played the demo. The demo was a lot of fun. I just want to play more. But I've also seen what the later parts of the game look like, and they look really hard, and I don't want to have that level of stress and frustration on stream. So I'm going to play it off stream and be stressed then instead. Anyway, moving on. And then Saturday, we're going to play Silent Hill: The Short Message. This was a free-to-play game that was launched the same day as Sony's State of Play last week. And is kind of meant to be a sampler, more or less, of what Konami's in-house team are doing with Silent Hill now. From what I've seen, it's very much a you like it or you hate it vibe to it. I have a feeling I'm going to come down the hate it side of things because it has horror design or modern horror game design elements that I despise. So we'll see, but we're going to give it a shot. It's free. Why not? And it's short. So we're going to play that on Saturday, and hopefully I'll do it all in one go. Metacritic is like 60 something for it, so we'll see how that turns out. Anyway, that is the plan for next week. So here's our schedule. Here's the schedule. Tuesday, I've moved Rain Code off from Saturday, and normally it would have been on a Wednesday, but again, I don't know if Banishers will be downloaded in time. So I'm going to push it on to Tuesday. Wednesday, Banished Ghosts of New Eden. It'll be the start of a new Let's Play. We'll be continuing our Inscription Let's Play. That game is getting really weird. And then Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown as part of Foley Plays Games a Bit. We're playing on Friday. And Silent Hill: The Short Message, hopefully a one stream type thing. One and done. And then we'll be right back around for the weekly news recap on next Sunday. Okay, that is it from me for today. For your news and your channel update, a good rest of your day. Hopefully I will see you later for some more Steam Next Fest demos, but if I don't, hopefully I'll see you on Tuesday for Raincode. Alright. Probably not. Raincode tends to be a silent one, but anyway, we'll see. This game is just for me. I may take it out of the rotation, because I'm the only person who seems to be interested in playing it. Alright, anyway, I'm gonna head off. Have a good one, and see you when I see you. Bye-bye.